What is up, people, and welcome to another video. And in this video I'm going to show you how to monitor your application, specifically your NodeJS application, using Prometheus. So without further ado, let's go. So this video is part of my Prometheus monitoring series, which is under my Docker development guide. So check the link down in the description. You'll find access to the free open source GitHub repo where I've published all the source code you're about to see in this video. So you can use this video as a reference guide and follow along and also learn something new. So just before we begin, in order for Prometheus to monitor your application, you're going to need a metrics endpoint. So on the left hand side over here, we have our application, and I'm going to be showing you how to integrate a client library into your app so that you can create a metrics endpoint. And then on the right hand side, we're going to create a Prometheus container that's going to come and scrape our endpoint and monitor our application. Node.js. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is clone this repository. Go to the README on the root, and you'll see the Docker development guide. And these are all the videos that I've done so far about Docker development and the basics. And you're going to want to go ahead and click on the Prometheus monitoring section. And right at the top, we show here how to start Prometheus, Grafana, and all the dashboards. And the key thing that we're interested in is how to run our example application. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this Docker compose command. I'm going to paste it. That's going to start up our application, and it may also build it if we have not built it already. So you can see that's built and started up. So what we're going to want to do next is go into the code. So under the Prometheus monitoring folder, if you scroll down, you see Node.js application. This is our example app. So I'm going to start with a Docker file. Very basic, not much happening in here. We have Node running on Alpine, so it's Node 12. We are creating a working directory, copying package.json into the image. We do npm install. We copy our source code in, and we say Node to start up our application. Very, very simple. The key thing that I want to show you is package.json. You're going to want to go ahead and add the prom client, and this is the library that we're going to be used for Prometheus. It's on npmjs.com. Go and take a look at this one. There's also a lot of usage instructions of how to use it if you need any more information. But what we're going to want to do is go into the server.js. So I have a really small Express web server running here, using Express, running on port 5000. I go ahead and I create my Prometheus client, and now let's run through what this does. So what we're interested in doing with Prometheus is two main things. Normally you want to know how long does a function or an operation take. And the second thing is how many times does it occur. So we're going to be looking at two very important Prometheus metrics. One is called counter, to count how many times an operation occurs, and one is a histogram, to basically calculate duration or observe any kind of variable. First thing we do is we register the prom client. We also, this is some extra feature you can do, is to collect default metrics. This will allow the client to extract extra metrics from the server itself, so you can see like CPU and memory usage. Then what we're going to want to do is two main things. The counter, we're going to want to go ahead and define the counter metric. So we call it node request operations total, and this is the Prometheus metric name that you're going to want to use in your query. And then you also need help text to describe what the metric name means. And then we're going to want to do a histogram. So this is our duration, one that we're going to be defining here. Now the way histogram works is you define a lower end and an upper end of a bucket size. And in our case, we're going to track duration in seconds, and it shouldn't be more than 10 seconds as size as the largest bucket, and what Prometheus will do is it'll observe the time that an operation takes and put it into one of these buckets. So that helps Prometheus to calculate duration, calculate 95, 98, 99 percentiles. Then we're going to register our Express web, and this is just a basic web page on the root of the page. So this is the basic handler, and what we're going to do is use a normal JavaScript timer. So we say start equals new date, and we want to simulate a time of 1 second, and then we use a normal delay here. This is just to simulate some kind of work. Now, normally you would do an API call or some kind of server call operation. And so we just have this to kind of mock that. So what we're going to do here, so the key thing you want to do is first start a timer, and then you do some work, and then at the end of the time when that work is finished, you calculate the duration using this, and then you pass that value into the histogram's observe method, and we're just converting it here into seconds, our time. That's why we divide it by 1000, because it's milliseconds. And yeah, that's as simple as that. So we populate our histogram there, and the last thing we're going to want to do is set a counter, increment the counter. So every time this function gets called, our counter goes up, as well as our histogram gets populated with how long this function takes. So this is very, very basic way showing you guys how to use counters and histograms to determine how long your function takes and how often it's being called. Now the final piece of the puzzle is the metrics endpoint. So we're going to need a metrics endpoint over here, and this is so Prometheus can come in and scrape the metrics. And we set a content type, and this is the client the Prometheus client automatically provides the metrics. So we just pop that into the results, and that's as simple as that. That's how we create a metrics endpoint. So now that our application is up, I'm going to go into the browser on port 83, and that's where we're running our application. You can see Hello World is up and running. And now the next part is the magic. So how do we create now a Prometheus server and also a place to plot the metrics? So go ahead and go back to our README file, and here we have instructions to start Prometheus, Grafana, and the dashboard suite. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, clear out the terminal, and let's start up the stack. So that's going to start up Prometheus, Grafana, as well as an extra container which is going to import a set of pre-built dashboards that I made for this demo. So now what you're going to want to go ahead and do is go to your browser and go to port 9091, and you'll see the landing page of Prometheus. Now if you go over to status and targets, you'll notice that we have our Node.js application up and running. And you're probably wondering, how did we define it in Prometheus? How does Prometheus know where our application is? And it's quite simple. If we head over to the left hand side here, you'll see a prometheus.yaml file. This is a config that we pass into Prometheus, and it has a set of scraped targets. And we can see here our Node.js container name and port is defined inside of the scrape config. So what we're going to want to do now is go over to the browser, generate a few requests on here, and then we're going to go ahead and look at Grafana. Now Grafana runs on localhost port 3000, and you'll notice here's a dashboard that's automatically been imported that I created called application telemetry. And if we expand and click into this, we can go ahead and expand the panel for Node.js. So if we expand that, we can immediately see our metrics have come through. So we got request duration 1, request per second is also being calculated here. Now, how do we calculate these values? So for request per second, we use the metric type counter. Remember the count? So let's click into that, go edit, and what you can see here is Prometheus has a function called irate. So what we do is we pass our metric into the irate function, And we also give it a time span of 2 minutes. That's normally the standard for requests per second. And what Prometheus will do is it'll return the requests per second over a period of 2 minutes here. So this is a very accurate way of getting requests per second plotted on a graph. And if we take a look at request duration, this is our histogram. Now if we go ahead and look at the query, to calculate a histogram, this is a very basic function that's defined on Prometheus documentation. You use the sum bucket, so you calculate the rate of the sum bucket over 2 minute period, and then you divide that by the rate of the count bucket over 2 minutes, and this will give you the duration in seconds or milliseconds depending on what you're observing. So that is a very simple way of and really valuable of instrumenting Node.js. So tracking how long your operations take, how many times your operations being called. And yeah, so that's the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see in future videos, and hit the like and subscribe button. And until next time, peace.